All right, let's talk about it. The so-called war between Gen Z and Millennials. It's all over our feeds, it's in our offices, but today we're going to dig into what's really going on.
So, picture this. It's 5:30 p.m. You've got one person still glued to their screen, anxiously refreshing their email, terrified that logging off means they're falling behind. And then right next to them, you have a colleague who just snaps their laptop shut. Done. They're not giving up their evening for anyone. Society loves to pit them against each other, right? The burned-out workaholic versus the lazy quiet quitter. But what if both of those labels are just completely and utterly wrong?
Because here's the thing. What we're actually looking at isn't a fight over work ethic. It's a story about two totally different nervous systems, each one perfectly, even brilliantly, adapted to survive in a world built on the exact same broken promises.
So to really get to the heart of this, we have to start by tearing down the myth. The stereotypes we've all heard. And let's be honest, probably even used ourselves.
And these labels, they're so familiar it hurts. Millennials? Oh, they're the fragile tryhards, the anxious workaholics. And Gen Z? They're the apathetic quiet quitters, the lazy and entitled ones. These aren't just jokes. They're the weapons we use in a cultural battle that is completely missing the real point.
Okay, let's start with the millennial story. It's not a story of entitlement. It's a story about what you might call a burden of hope. And all that anxiety, it's actually a perfectly logical reaction to a promise that was shattered.
See, millennials were brought up in the 90s on this incredibly simple, powerful promise. If you work hard and you follow the rules, you will get a good, stable life. It was the social contract. But then, 2008 happened. The Great Recession didn't just tank the economy, it blew that entire foundational promise to pieces. And the result years later? A whole generation with a nervous system basically stuck in fight or flight, constantly chasing a stability that vanished a long time ago.
And this experience leads to a really powerful psychological idea: economic gaslighting. You know what this is. It's that nagging feeling deep inside you, that internalized voice that says, when the system doesn't work out, it must be your fault. You didn't hustle hard enough. You weren't smart enough. You should have saved more. It's this profound, personal blame for a huge, systemic failure.
So that relentless millennial hustle, the one people make fun of, it is not a personality trait. It's a survival mechanism. It's a desperate, exhausting attempt to try and outrun a system that feels totally, fundamentally rigged.
Now let's shift gears and talk about Gen Z, because their story isn't one of apathy at all. It's a story of what I'd call a shield of realism. It's an incredibly rational, protective strategy they built for a world that never even bothered to promise them stability to begin with.
I mean, just think about the world they grew up in. They literally had front row seats to watch the system betray their older millennial siblings and parents. Their entire reality was shaped by constant economic uncertainty and the nonstop algorithmic chaos of the internet. Their nervous systems were wired for instability from day one.
This environment, well, it fostered a completely different psychological default setting, an external locus of control. All that means is it's a belief based on hard evidence they saw that outside forces like the economy or systemic problems or just blind luck have way more to do with your success than just your own individual effort. Why? Because they saw that working harder was no guarantee for the generation right before them.
So let's be crystal clear about this. Their boundaries, the whole quiet quitting thing, it is not laziness, not even close. It is a rational, logical shield against the burnout they watched consume an entire generation. It is an intelligent adaptation.
But, and this is where the story takes a turn, both of these brilliant survival strategies have a dark side. They each come with a hidden, painful cost. Each generation is shouldering a very unique kind of pain. For millennials, the price of that constant hustle is just existential depletion, a bone-deep exhaustion. It's that crushing inability to ever rest without feeling an overwhelming sense of guilt. And for Gen Z, the cost of those protective shields and digital boundaries is a profound, hollow loneliness, a crazy level of digital isolation, even in a world that's supposed to be more connected than ever.
So what's the answer? Is the point just to keep fighting? No way. The path forward, the only path forward, is mutual healing. Because it turns out, each generation is holding the exact key to the other one's peace.
And the trade is actually pretty simple. To heal that crushing weight of constant performance, millennials desperately need to borrow Gen Z's unapologetic boundaries, the radical permission to just stop. And to heal that deep ache of isolation,
Gen Z can borrow the millennial drive for messy, real-world human connection, the kind that only happens when the screens are off.
So if you're listening to this and you see yourself in any part of this story, please hear this. You are not broken. You're not a lazy employee. You're not a failed adult. You are a human being navigating a profoundly chaotic century the absolute best way your nervous system knows how.
Which brings us to one final, really important question. What if this whole generational war, all the memes, the TikToks, the arguments, what if it's all just one giant distraction from the real, systemic problems that are hurting every single one of us?